Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football strategy show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here as always with Casey Vlad to the Bone Scheinfold and Ross the Boss.
Hey everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and we're on the second week of NFL football, which I'm excited about, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's start.
Okay, let's dive right in. You know, where we should start is Ross is going to sing I Want It That Way like he was doing right before the show.
You set me up with that. That's the reason I did it. And as you know,
it has to just come.
I love boy bands.
Organic. That's
I
not
mean,
organic.
really, it's kind of the theme anyway, because at the beginning of the season, you do want it a certain way, and it never goes that way. So let's talk about how it did not go that way. What were the surprises? Well, actually, let's first start with Aaron Rodgers. What do you say to Jets fans at this point?
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, it's like I watch ESPN and they pay these guys millions of dollars, and Brissett they're talking about, Heineke they're talking about. I mean, these guys should all be fired. I mean, and then yesterday
the
talked about
the quarterbacks.
No, the analysts that work for ESPN.
Then
he brought up Colin Kaepernick, who must be 50 years old, who hasn't played for years. I don't know, and then becomes like a race thing because God forbid you don't agree to that. And then today they brought up Ben Roethlisberger. He must weigh 400 pounds. This guy. I watch him. I watch his podcast. He's eating his whole county up. I mean, this guy. I mean, I don't know if he watched his last game and he walked through the tunnel with his family. Did you guys see that? You guys watch that last game?
Did he?
So it was like the Mean Joe Green commercial with the kid with the Coke. Remember? I mean, he could barely walk, and they want this guy to come back and play football. He can't even walk. I mean, wake up. Zach, it's Wilson's job. Give the kid the job. He was 5-1. No, everybody forgets about it. He was 5-1 last year, and then he went in a losing streak. But still, this kid can play football. Give him a chance. I mean, there's no one else. There's no one else coming through the tunnel waiting to play.
Well, I don't know about you all, but I know Casey and I enjoyed that massive rant from Ross. It was beautiful, Ross. It was well done.
I mean, it just upsets me. It's like they bring up all these names from the past. Oh, we can bring back this guy, that guy. No, there's a reason why they're not playing football, because they stink.
Yeah, but in the meantime, you know, it's got to be rough to be a Jets fan. I say that as a former Browns fan. And now I'm sure you guys are wondering, did I get tempted to become a Browns fan with the Browns?
Yeah, did you?
Actually, if on Tuesday, we realized that whoever you root for craps the bed. So you became a Bills fan, and what did the Bills do?
I that's why I said I'm not joining the Bills bandwagon. I can't do that to that population.
Cardinals fan this weekend,
or maybe a Ravens fan.
That would be great.
That'd be great, yeah. Okay, now I picked the Ravens in our survivor pool, so I kind of was a bit of a Ravens fan. They came through anyway. That's classic Ravens. But I'm not officially a fan. If I become an official fan, yes, I do think that it will doom them. So I'm a free-floating disaster coming to a city near you. Let's talk about other results that surprised you. Let's start with the Browns.
Go ahead.
You're a Bengals fan. You predicted that Joe Burrow was going to come out flat.
Oh, I went to the bank. I took the mortgage out like you did when Andy Dalton plays, and I bet it on the Browns. There's, when you just can't go out there and play football if you don't play any preseason at all. And that Joe Burrow, this second year in a row when he did this, and I just knew the Bengals would lose this game. First of all, they play the Browns horribly. Remember last year, Halloween, Cleveland destroyed us. And this year, opening day, I just knew the Browns would win. I mean, Burrow, we call him Joey Bucks now because he's the highest paid football player right now in the NFL. 80 yards passing. I mean, seriously? I mean, with bad. Chase and Higgins, 0 yards Higgins? I mean, I know really the defense for Cleveland is great, but wake up.
Last week.
Oh, it's true. I mean, I have him in Dynasty as one of my super flex quarterbacks, and he just destroyed me. Josh Allen was my other guy.
And you had T. Higgins.
Zero.
A complete goose egg.
Yeah.
Now,
it's only week one, though. Everybody's panicking. Everybody panics on week one. It's unbelievable. I mean,
look, week one is all about overreactions, right?
Yep.
The Dallas defense is the greatest defense in the last 40 years. You know, the Giants are the worst offense in the last 40 years.
There's going to be so many overreactions.
Joe Burrow missing every preseason finally caught up to Joe Burrow. Puka Nacua is the next Cooper Kupp. Like everybody overreacts to week one.
There's no better accurate statement than that. I mean, Everyone comes out of week 1 thinking this is the new way it is. And that's why I talked about it last week. What's going to happen that we're going to find out is totally different. You can't overreact. Here's a good example. Jahmyr Gibbs got less carries than David Montgomery. And I heard lots of people saying, oh my God, David Montgomery is going to run away with that backfield and Gibbs isn't going to be as good as we thought. I don't believe that at all. What do you guys think?
Well,
I mean, go ahead,
Rob.
Case.
Okay. I don't disagree that Montgomery might be the lead back in terms of the traditional running back role, because the one thing Jahmyr Gibbs showed last Thursday night is he only needs 12 touches to be electric, to be dynamic. Like his role is it might be that he's not built to pound between the tackles for 18 touches a game. They're going to use up all the tread that's left on Montgomery's tires to protect
I agree with
Jahmyr
that.
Gibbs.
I agree with that. It's not that I think Montgomery's not going to be valuable. It's that I think it's funny that people shift their value of Gibbs so much. I mean, first of all, that should have been the value of Gibbs anyway. That's his floor is what we're seeing.
Right.
But he's got massive upside.
Yeah, but he'll get more carries when the season goes on. Remember, these guys are rookies.
They already said they were going to give him more carries.
I mean, look at Bijan Mustard Man. You know, I mean, he got less carries than Algiers. You know what I mean? So it's only the first game. These rookies, they don't want to just throw them to the Lions all of a sudden. You know what I mean? They want to pace them a little bit, which is smart because that way these guys don't get hurt either.
And you have to remember the Detroit offense last year was built for 2 running backs, right? You had Dan's favorite, DeAndre
Don't
Swift.
bring it up. Don't say his name.
And then you had Jamal Williams, who had 17 touchdowns?
Oh, he was an all-pro last year.
If David Montgomery gets the Jamal Williams role and Jahmyr Gibbs is a more effective version of DeAndre Swift, that's success for both players.
Who's Barry Sanders? Which one is Barry Sanders' case?
Barry Sanders was Barry Sanders.
No one can play.
The closest to Barry Sanders was probably Marshall Faulk, but
it's true.
And that wasn't even that close. Barry was just that good. You know, there are all these surprises. I guess we should talk about who's for real and who's not. First, we'll talk about teams, then we'll get into players. So out of these starts, who is for real? I know we were joking. Oh, the Cowboys don't have necessarily the best defense just because they shut out the Giants, but are they true contenders for the Super Bowl?
Their defense is legit. I don't think they're. No, I mean, look at the offensive numbers. Other than Tony Pollard, what did Dak Prescott have?
Nothing. I mean, their offense was invisible.
CeeDee Lamb had 4 catches or 5 catches. You know, they can't prove anything until they get into a dogfight and they can beat somebody scoring a lot of points.
Yeah, and they're playing the Jets, and the Jets defense, they are an elite defense, I have to admit. They shut down Buffalo. They made Buffalo look bad at home. I mean, in New York. But I mean, it was a really nasty game for Buffalo and Josh Allen, who's supposed to be like the best, the next big thing. I mean, this guy's on the cover of Madden. This guy is doing commercials for Verizon. This guy's doing everything. Well, he wasn't doing everything on Monday. I'll tell you that much.
That's another point in favor of Zach Wilson, not necessarily as a fantasy asset, but as the starter of the Jets. Do they really need that much? They kind of need a game manager with that.
Right.
Kind of
and the person from a fantasy perspective, obviously it hurts Aaron Rodgers owners the worst because he's out for the year, but you weren't planning on him producing QB1 numbers anyway. Garrett Wilson is the one who suffers. Yeah. You know, Zach Wilson, nobody was counting on. Breece Hall showed you that knee injury isn't an issue anymore. He was,
and actually this probably helps Breece Hall,
right? And Dalvin Cook, if Dalvin Cook can stay healthy. The only person it hurts is Garrett Wilson.
But the Jets have the Jets' offensive line is old. They have one starting tackle. What's his name? Brown. He's 40 years old. And the other tackle's the one that got Rodgers hurt, who's not very good. So their offensive line is going to have a tough time protecting Wilson. But I think if Wilson can just get enough time to throw the ball, I think he'll be fine. And Jet fans are already throwing the whole season away. I disagree. I think
I think from a fantasy perspective, you can throw the season away for the offense unless you have Breece Hall.
Well,
I think Dalvin Cook could still be useful, and Garrett Wilson's still going to be useful. He's just
but you used a first-round pick on that cat.
That's
First
true.
or second round pick.
No,
Listen,
that's true. You're, but it is different than. In case you weren't here last week when we talked about the time in my second season of fantasy football.
Oh
I
yeah,
drafted-
ask Casey if he remembers this guy.
Let's see.
Say his name.
Do you remember? Okay, this was a Houston Texans running back. He ran for 1,200 yards and caught 400 receiving yards.
And this guy was Dan's first
2008.
pick in the draft. I mean,
No, but
2008.
first
yeah.
round.
Was it Bennett?
no,
Go again.
It
You'll
wasn't
never
Eddie
get it.
George.
I'll give you a clue, Casey.
there's no way. to give
One
a
of
clue
your
to
best receivers for the Giants has the same last name.
this. Different spelling.
Yeah, you can pronounce the same.
Pronounce it.
Current best receiver for the Giants?
Yes.
Yes.
Hyatt?
I'm an idiot. That's less
All
word.
right, I better tell you because the
Hodgins?
audience. We're gonna lose the audience.
No,
on
who's the best one? Just tell him.
Slayton?
this. It is Steve Slayton. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember Steve Slayton.
I have no
He
recollection.
has no
Yeah.
idea. I was clueless too.
Monster
So don't feel
season
bad.
one season, and I was learning fantasy football. Anyways, there's gonna be that's the difference. Garrett Wilson, even if you took him in round one, he's not gonna kill you like Steve Slayton killed me.
Right.
He's still gonna be useful. So
Steve
don't panic too
Slayton.
much.
He'll be on the show next week. We'll talk to Steve Slayton. and
Actually,
talk
I mean,
about
would
his
you
career.
guys trade for Garrett Wilson at this point?
No.
You
I would trade him.
You'd trade him at lower value? I think I would trade for him if I could. Get
I would
him
trade
at
for him
lower
if
value.
somebody would take somebody that's relatively.
Yeah, but what are you going
makes
to be willing
sense.
to give up?
Like a backup running back or third number three receiver? or
I
something
think you
like
guys
that?
are too down on Garrett Wilson. I mean, he's still going to be. He could potentially still be a wide receiver one, but he's at least a wide receiver two.
Did you
Yeah,
see
I
his
think he's a
catch?
wide
When he scored that
receiver,
touch,
too.
that
That
touchdown
means-
catch he made was great. That was
So if you're a Garrett Wilson owner, what's fair value for him?
I mean, obviously you've got to give up. You got to give up more than you. Take back less than you would expect to. He took a hit, but I still would treat him like a wide receiver too. I would treat him like maybe a T. Higgins type.
Would you trade
to
Brandon
throw to somebody.
Ayuk for him? Would you trade Brandon
No,
Ayuk for
no.
Wilson?
Brandon
Dan,
Ayuk is a
not-
wide receiver.
Not
one.
for you because you're an Arizona State guy, but I'm talking to Dan Ratner.
No, but Ayuk was one of my guys preseason.
I know.
Honestly-
I'm not
honestly-
talking to you. I'm talking to Dr. Dan Ratner because
I would. Here's what I would do if I were the Ayuk owner. I would try to get Garrett Wilson and a little something back because
so
it's
you
pretty
always
close.
want the little thing.
Well, it's pretty close, and I might do it straight up. I have to look at
DK
the numbers.
Metcalf for
Garrett
Wilson.
Ooh, that's interesting because I'm not a huge Metcalf fan.
I know you're
I-
not.
I would probably do it. Now, you could easily lose that deal, but I just don't think you're going to lose it by much anyway. And
Well,
the
the
upside
only
is bigger.
reason I think you have a chance is because if you look at volume, target share, Garrett Wilson gets a much higher volume
that's
because
what I
of
mean.
who's around him.
That's what I
than
mean. And
Metcalf.
if you're playing in a league where somebody devalues him because of this Aaron Rodgers injury that much, you should snag him. I mean, he is a volume wide receiver too at worst, and he's a huge talent. So I'm looking to buy shares of him, even though his value has come down. Whose value do you think went way up and you expect to stay up from what you saw in week one?
Tua for sure.
Yeah, I was going to
JC.
say a healthy Tua.
I mean, healthy Tua. I mean, Tyreek Hill is just a monster. Waddle's going to have numbers too. I mean,
the only
but
problem is they
that's-
don't have a tight end. I don't like.
yeah.
the
I mean, who needs it?
not
You don't
sure
even
they
need a
need
tight
it.
end.
I mean,
you don't even need it.
Tyreek Hill is their tight end.
We don't need anything. Casey, I mean, how about your guy? I like my guy, Zay Flowers. I think he showed.
I think Rashee
lot of
Rice's
promise.
value went up a lot, considering
Yeah,
how
yeah.
bad
Flowers-
all of the wide receivers around him played, both Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney.
How about our waiver wire guys that you like from the Rams?
Puka
Case.
Nakua and Tutu Atwell. I want to see them do it again.
What kind of names are these?
They're
Tutu and
great.
Paca? What
There
kind of
was a
name?
team when I was at the University of Maryland in the mid 90s, there was GW had a team where like the players' names were Omo Moses, Yinka Dare. It was like the greatest name team. Nimbo Hammonds, Kwame Evans.
Were they all
Yeah,
the draft?
like,
were they all from Africa? Were they all the Africans?
I don't know.
They just had a
Yinka Dare
college
ended
in
up on the
Africa?
Nets for a while, and then
That's right.
Maryland had a shooting guard at the time, X-Ray Hip, and I figured if they could just get X-Ray Hip to transfer, because like their fifth guy was like James Smith, it just ruined
Yeah,
the
it
whole
just
thing.
Do you remember? You guys are too young, but you remember Nebraska had a running back named I.M. Hip. Remember? I don't know if you guys.
Oh, I
Yeah,
remember him. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
That's the 80s.
My favorite name of all time isn't even a football name, but it's God Shamgod. Remember God Shamgod?
Yeah, the basketball player, right?
Yes, played for Providence. Okay, here's another guy whose value went way up. I think is Rashid Shaheed of the Saints.
Yep, we talked about that on Tuesday. Raheed Shaheed. I mean, I got him in a few. I wait for him on Tuesday night, and I got him in a couple of my leagues. I picked him up. This guy. Did you guys see the clip of him talking on the sidelines with Carr? Did you guys see that? So
I did not see that.
During the game, Carr it was all mic'd up. It was great. Try to. I saw it on TikTok. Hey Albert, and basically Carr said, I'm gonna throw the ball to you, just run deep as far as you can. And the next play, he threw the ball far and he caught it, and it was a huge play for the Saints, and they won the game. But I mean, it was great. It was great how they just got it all on tape. It was unbelievable. But
and
Carr loves them.
His value should stay up because Michael Thomas, we know,
right, isn't going to stay healthy.
And
targets.
He did have some targets, but I
targets.
I don't believe in him.
He had 60 yards. I mean, it was okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm right about this, but I do think that Rashid Shaheed is a guy that I would expect to hold at least a good portion of the value that it looks like he gained in week 1. Albert Mariquin has a question here. He says, do you guys think Calvin Ridley finishes as a top 10 wide receiver?
Love Calvin Ridley. I said beginning of the season, he'll have 15 touchdowns. He's going to have a monster year. All you heard about is Lawrence and Ridley, and this guy's going to have a huge year, and he proved it on last week with his first touchdown of the year.
I agree, but I like how Albert phrased the question because top 10s are right where it gets debatable.
Yeah, that's where I had him.
I have him top 5. How about that, Albert? Top 5.
Nice. But if he said top 15, we all would have just said,
but
for sure.
Yeah, I think he has a legit chance to finish 7 or 8. I don't think.
I mean, my favorite. We talked about last time. Remember, St. Brown's was saying in a press conference, "Oh, I'm a number 11." I mean, who cares? It means you're a loser if you're number 11. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, top five is great. After that, it doesn't matter.
It does mean something, but it is a weird thing to brag about.
I'm number 11. Yeah, go tell your agent.
I'm going to jump over to quarterback for a second. I wondered, what do you guys think of Jordan Love's performance? What do you expect?
It's got to be encouraging. I mean, it was encouraging to watch. He had good chemistry with Romeo Doubs. Some of those throws were, I mean, the second touchdown to Doubs was beautiful in terms of the way he waited and found him in the back of the end zone. But the problem's going to be Christian Watson didn't practice yesterday. Aaron Jones isn't practicing today either. So Aaron Jones makes everybody else on that team better. A.J. Dillon looks like he's running in mud right now. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But look, he's shown he's learned a lot over the few years sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, and he was poised. So, I mean, Chicago's not exactly a great team. So he hasn't been tested by a great team yet, but you have to be encouraged.
And in case he won't this week either. They play Atlanta in Atlanta. I think Love's going to have a big game. I like Love a lot. I took Love. I took Green Bay to win that game. I really believe Jordan Love's going to have a really good year. I'm a firm believer on that kid.
It's really interesting to think about what it's like to be a Packers fan today with what happened with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. I mean, the Packers they rarely go wrong at quarterback. That's a franchise that there's all those franchises that are so hungry for a good quarterback. And look at the Packers. They just have a string of them.
LaFleur's a good coach. He's a good quarterback guy too. He knows what he's doing. He's great.
Yeah. So, then there's expected players that we thought would do well, like Chris Olave. How did he look compared to expectations? I mean, he had eight catches, I think, for 112 yards.
Yeah, that's kind of what you would hope out of number one. You'd rather he didn't find the end zone though, did he?
No.
He did not.
That's the only thing. But that's going to happen some weeks, right? So he was what he was supposed to be,
right? But now look, Puka Nacua, as you talked about, he put up basically the same numbers, but even with more targets. Is this for real? I mean,
it is until at least Cooper Kupp gets back. Mm-hmm. The targets are there. I mean, is he going to catch 10 for 119 or whatever it was every week? No, I don't think so.
I mean, I'm gonna throw out one potential concern. When you see a breakout performance like that, I'm not meaning to pump the brakes on it because I could be totally wrong about this. This could be a complete breakout and you should go for it. But at the same time, it's not like coaches have had a chance to look at the
No.
tape and plan for him.
But when I'm looking at who to pick up or who to target, I look at volume, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you went 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, but it was on 3 targets,
Yeah, I'm not.
that's a flash in the pan player. Somebody who gets 15 targets, even if they don't catch 10 next week, say they only catch 7, like in a PPR league, you have a touchdown just in receptions.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, if the targets are there, you definitely want to go for
and
it.
it means the quarterback trusts him, right? Like at the
Yeah,
end
he'll
of the
trust
day,
him until he drops the ball. But yeah, he'll trust him.
Stafford trusts him.
Yeah.
And the Rams play. The Rams play the Niners this weekend, and
he's not going to have.
Everybody says the Niners are going to kill him. That's always a tough game. The Rams always give the Niners problems, and I'm not saying the Rams are going to win, but I just think it's going to be a close game. I mean, the odd makers have it at 8.5. I think it's too many, but that's me.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the rookies. We already talked about Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yep.
What about Bijan Robinson? How did he look to you? What do we think about what Tyler Algier, I think is how you say his name?
Yeah.
What do we think about him getting? He got 15 carries, 75 yards, incredibly effective, and 2 touchdowns, even caught passes. To me, I'm not worried about Bijan at all, but I am feeling like Tyler Algier is going to be a really good addition to a lot of teams.
Yeah,
you guys agree with that?
Yeah, Ross and I talked about that a couple times. I've been saying I could see Algier still getting 180 touches because his rookie year, and they're going to use him to pound between the tackles because that keeps Bijan healthy. It's similar to the Montgomery and Gibbs discussion. I think having those types of backfields is kind of the way the NFL is moving, where you can have them both be equally active. You got, you're seeing it all over the place. It started with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon a few years ago. Well, I'm sure it started before that. Don't get me wrong, but thunder and lightning, as it was Tiki Barber and Brandon.
Of course, you think the Giants,
But I think Bijan Robinson is he's a Swiss Army knife. So you can run him between the tackles. You can split him into the slot. You can even go all the way out wide with him. And that makes the defenses think, and that's going to open up opportunities for Algier to just run.
But if I've got either of those running backs on my team, one of the things I like about it is this is not a committee. Committees, when I think of a committee, I think of a team where basically all the running backs are just not of value because they're all being used too much and too widely. This is 2 backs who are both being used really well. I want both.
Yeah. It reminds me of your old team with Cleveland, Hunt and Chubb. Remember how they used those 2 guys, and they both had big games. I mean, and if you had both of them in your fantasy league, you did really well. I know guys that did that. But I think it's only the first game. Atlanta won that game pretty handily. And I know Bijan at the end was not getting the ball just because they did not want to get him hurt. They know, like, rookie back, let's just pace them a little bit and not give them all these handoffs and risk anything, which is a smart thing to do. At least somebody has some brains. So let's see what happens this week with Green Bay. I think that game's going to be a little closer, a little more competitive, and a little bit low scoring too. So we'll see what happens in that game, because I think that game is going to have a lot of running.
Yeah.
You'll see it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Algier is he's a flex guy. He's not going to be an RB1.
Right.
He might not even be an RB2. But if you can get 11 points a game out of one of your flex positions, you're going to take it. In a 12-team league, 11 points is plenty. And he can get you 11 points every game. A touchdown and 50 yards rushing, or 70 yards and 3 catches, whatever it may be. That he's a flex guy. He's going to have standalone value regardless of Bijan's role. And that's important.
And, since this is a strategy show, one thing that I would say is if I don't have Algier and I am a Bijan rosterer, I'm going to trade for Algier, but not today, because his value just went up. I'm going to wait for him to have one bad game or down game.
And hope
then I'm going to
Bijan doesn't get hurt before that.
Yes, exactly. Because, I mean, Algier is a majorly valuable handcuff. Who are the best handcuffs out there? I know we talked about Jerome Ford, and he looked pretty good to me.
Well, Jaylen Warren is probably the most valuable, if you ask me, of the.
Yeah, you guys have been predicting the death of Najee Harris's career.
Well, they split handoffs the first game.
They did, and
they'll tell you.
And they even said directly that they are planning to continue doing that, as I recall.
Until Warren wins the job. Yeah, I mean,
is Elijah Mitchell healthy? Because he's also an exceptionally valuable handcuff.
Elijah Mitchell's healthy. He
because
played a little
McCaffrey's,
bit. Yeah.
McCaffrey's an injury risk.
Mhm.
So I think anybody you spend a first round pick or second round pick on a running back, their backup becomes the most valuable handcuff. Tyjae Spears in Tennessee. I don't know who this. I'm a Giants fan and I have no idea who the backup running back is for
That's
Saquon.
hilarious.
But certainly
Who is it? That's interesting. Go ahead.
that's the way I would look at it.
Yeah.
I have to look up Saquon Barkley's backup. While I'm doing that, this was obviously in week one, a big anticipation of rookies. I talked about Jordan Love at QB, but Anthony Richardson, how did he look to you guys? And I want from an NFL perspective and a fantasy perspective.
I thought he looked okay. I didn't think he looked great, but he should have rushed for more yards. He did not rush whatever he thought he was going to do. I mean, I think he's still going to have over 1,000 yards rushing for a quarterback, and that's pretty good. It's really good. But he looked, again, he has not played that much in college.
But I mean, he still ran for
his
40 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, they should have ran for about 80, but his ceiling is so high with that kid.
Yeah.
And they play the mighty Carolina Panthers this weekend, which I think he'll have a lot better game against them because their defense isn't that strong.
No, don't they play Houston this weekend?
Excuse me, Houston. Him against CJ Stroud, huh?
I mean, the beauty of Anthony Richardson is he's in the AFC South, which is there an elite defense in the AFC South? So
there is, but it's decades ago.
Right, exactly. So he's got how many games against porous defenses just that way? And so, Jacksonville isn't going to scare him. Houston's not going to scare him. Tennessee is a really good running defense, but they're not a great passing defense.
No, they're all hurt.
I don't know how good they are against running quarterbacks on the run, but Richardson is going to be valuable, right? He's not going to, he might not be, he's going to be a better fantasy quarterback this year probably than he is a real quarterback. I'll put it that way.
It's absolutely true, but I think his fantasy upside, I mean,
he's Michael Vick in terms of upside fantasy wise.
Yeah. And you look at what Justin Fields did last year. Let's talk about what Justin Fields did in week one, though.
I think Justin Fields is going to be a second string quarterback next year.
Wow. Okay. I think, we talked about overreactions, but there are times where you see something and you're like, I don't think that's an overreaction. And there's a lot of people who are feeling that same way. I know some people who, I mean, even in our dynasty league, there was one trade. They traded Patrick Mahomes in a Justin Fields deal. They can't feel very good about that today.
No.
So you're expecting that he will literally be out of a job after this year?
Yeah, I think the Bears they don't have much option this year, but they're going to have a high pick next year. And there's three quarterbacks coming out that are considered to be lottery talent.
Did they sign him to a big contract? I can't remember.
Not yet. No, because he's still in the fourth year of his.
They protected themselves.
What happened was the Bears were sold, and the new owners weren't too crazy about Justin Fields. And he had that big year last year, and then everybody's like, oh, "Okay, we got to keep this guy."
Week 6 on or 7.
Yeah, so they were, we got to keep this guy, right? And he basically did well, and now he's still on trial. I mean, it's only week 1, but the Bears defense is really bad. I mean, that defense is probably the worst in the league. And every time they play somebody, they give up a lot of points. So let's see what Justin Fields does against, I think they play Tampa Bay, right, Casey?
Chicago plays.
By the way, the backup to Saquon Barkley is either Matt Breida or Eric Gray.
Exactly.
Matt Breida.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa Bay. I love Baker Mayfield, just so you guys know. I love Baker Mayfield.
I actually like Tampa's offense this week.
I do too.
So will that continue?
This week, Tampa's offense, yes.
Yes, because
After
the Bears
that,
defense.
Not so much.
But I do like Baker. I root for Baker. I miss the days he was on TV. Dan, I know you're not a huge fan, but something about Baker.
I love Baker.
I mean, he's just such a team guy.
He didn't like Johnny Manziel. He liked Baker.
But he just motivates his team. He's one of these. He's just so inspirational in the sidelines. I just love this guy. I love him.
I always liked him, and there are plenty of people in Cleveland who did not like him, and I never really understood. But speaking of Cleveland quarterbacks, what do we make of Deshaun Watson's performance this particular week? Does it shed light on things? What do you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have the most efficient day, 154 yards passing, but look,
but he ran for 45 years.
Other than the 2 years he missed because of his need for special treatment,
well said.
He always finished as a top 4 quarterback in fantasy.
Yeah, but I think the feeling was with 2 years off, would he ever really recover from that?
I think he's going to. I think when you have Nick Chubb as your running back, and you have Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones and a great offensive line. Yeah, I would. In one of my leagues, I actually have Justin Fields as my quarterback, but my backup is Deshaun Watson. So
that could easily flip as the season
I'm grateful.
goes.
No, it's already flipped.
Oh, it's already.
And it's weird. And they play Pittsburgh this weekend, which I think it's just so
doesn't
many.
Scare you. I mean,
I know, but it's just like, I mean, there's all these like league games at the beginning of the season, which is, I mean, division games in the beginning of the season. It's just weird. Usually they space them out a little bit, but there's like the Bengals play Baltimore, Pittsburgh plays Cleveland. It's just, they're not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
New Orleans, Carolina.
It's just a lot up front, but oh well.
All right, now let's talk about. There's certain players in fantasy that you've got to gauge. We're past the waiver period. You guys do your Tuesday waiver show, which is great that we do that because people need to know then. But people are still evaluating these new pickups. I want to know what do we think of a guy like Kyron Williams? He had 2 touchdowns. He had 15 handoffs to him.
The Cam Akers had 22 carries for 29 yards. I don't think
it's pretty bad.
I think you're excited about Kyron Williams because he could actually, even just falling forward, you get more than 29 yards.
Look, if Cam Akers does that again, he may not see the field.
Remember, guys, let me just correct you with Kyron Williams. I love him. I think he went to school in Florida. Great kid, but he's small. He's small. He's not a big dude. He can't handle the carries like Cam Akers
gets. Jerick McKinnon type.
He's like, reminds me of that Dave. Remember David Magnet?
Oh, Dave Maggot. Yeah,
Dave Maggot. Darren
he
Sproles.
But Kyron Williams went to Notre Dame.
Look at that little Maggot run. Yeah.
Kyron Williams went to Notre Dame, didn't he?
Who?
Kyron Williams.
I don't know.
He did. I'm
he
pretty
did,
sure.
Okay.
Pretty sure. So I just was checking on that.
I believe you.
But here's the thing. He reminds me of Kenneth Gainwell. A modern day version of, we can go back to Dave Maggot, but Kenneth Gainwell, what do we make of him? I know he's not practicing leading.
He's not playing this. He's already out. He's not playing today. He's not playing. It's
that I know.
It's going to be the guy that I'm not allowed to say because of your trigger, and Penny's going to play too.
DeAndre Swift really is. He may be a trigger for me.
It's not a trigger for him anymore. He's
worked through it. It's more what happens than the player itself.
It is.
I still don't like it, but you know what? This is the great thing about fantasy football. You go to the next year and you get a new trigger. Now Mark Andrews is my trigger, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I drafted a tight end in a league where we don't need one. All right, how about Romeo Doubs?
Love him.
He's playing dinged up. He's still got 2 touchdowns on only 4 receptions and 26 yards, and with Christian Watson likely out again, he seems to be trending in that direction. So you said you love him. Does that mean for this week or for the rest of the season?
I like him all season. I think he's developed the best. I mean, from what we saw, and I said it earlier, great chemistry with his quarterback. If he can stay healthy, he was the number 1 receiver when Christian Watson was out. Granted, again, we're going to say it, the Bears, not the biggest test defensively, but he still managed to get 2 touchdowns when there was nobody else on the field for the defense to really key on.
Yeah.
They were starting a rookie tight end at the other wide receiver spot at points.
He's got a great role, and I do expect very good things from him.
And I think once Christian Watson comes back, he might actually even get more valuable.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it helps him. I think those two, especially if Jordan Love really is delivering well, I really like the Packers. They've got a great team. I wanted to jump back for a second, and now I just lost track of who it was. Oh, I wanted to go back to the Eagles' backfield. So Gainwell's out.
Right.
But what do you expect going forward? I mean, were you surprised that Gainwell got I know there was a lot of buzz about him, so it wasn't totally surprising. But were you surprised to see Rashad Penny an inactive in Week 1? I was surprised that he was inactive.
Nothing surprises me with the coach of the Eagles, with Peterson, right? Is that who it is?
No, Peterson's no longer the coach.
Yeah, he's in Jacksonville.
Sirianni
right. Nothing. Phil, the Eagles are always making like weird moves like that, but again, it's only Week 1. It doesn't. Penny's going to play. Don't worry, he's playing tonight. Swift, I like a lot. I think Swift's going to have a touchdown tonight. I think he'll have a good game. But it's only, guys. Everybody gets all weirded out about Penny's not playing. He's not playing, which is fine, but there's 16 more games to go, so no worries. He'll be out there.
I wouldn't totally panic, but it wasn't a great thing for Penny rosters.
Maybe Gainwell had the best preseason. Maybe Gainwell proved it in practice. Maybe Gainwell deserves the spot. I don't know.
Yep.
Okay, they did pay a lot of money, so they did play a lot of money. Swift though.
I was going to say Rashad Penny's never been healthy.
Well,
so you were never going to rely on him.
Neither has Swift.
So Gainwell was always going to be the kind of, in my opinion, the lead back. I think the best running back tonight is Jalen Hurts. I think you're going to see Jalen Hurts say, nope, I'm just going to take it myself a few times. And you're going to see one of those 70 rushing yard nights where he scores at least one touchdown on the ground. I think A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are going to be studs. Devontae Smith is like Batman to me. I will never bet against him ever, but I prefer A.J. Brown tonight.
What do you guys make of Jalen Hurts' stats in game 1? I mean, the Eagles managed to win. Tough game in New England. But
sloppy weather.
I don't think bad weather. It was raining.
I don't make much of game 1. Those.
I mean, I'm not worried about it at all.
No, Hurts is a stud, but they were flat. I mean, they were up 16-0, and they ended up giving up. The game was close.
Yep,
they almost lost.
All right, here's an interesting question from AS. He says, "Should I trade my Nakua and Kelly for Godwin and Kirk? 0.5 PPR, Cooper Kupp owner." That's interesting. And look, Nakua and Kelly both went up in value significantly this past week, so you can get that deal done.
I guess AS. Oh, here, good. He
he gave context.
Who are his running backs?
Well, let's read this first. My wide receivers: Cooper. That means so that's not Cooper Kupp. That's Amari Cooper because he lists Cooper Kupp also. Christian Watson,
DeAndre Hopkins,
Zay Flowers, Nakua. Pretty deep at wide receiver. My running backs: Najee, Pacheco, Swift, Kamara, Kelly, and Damian Harris.
I think it is Cooper
wouldn't
Kupp.
Make that trade.
I'm sorry, Casey. What did you say?
I wouldn't make that trade. He's not deep enough at running back to give up Kelly and not get a running back back.
I agree, and he's got depth at wide receiver, so I don't see it. I also am just not a Godwin fan from a fantasy standpoint.
I think Godwin is a good wide receiver. I don't know much we trust Baker for a whole season to keep him valuable. The issue he's facing is Watson's hurt, Hopkins banged up, Kupp is hurt.
Right.
So
I think you're
only adding one wide receiver because you're giving up Nakua in the trade.
And Kirk didn't have a great week himself, didn't he?
He didn't.
No. Well, that's because Calvin Ridley had a great week.
Calvin Ridley's back.
Well, but Ridley's going to keep having great weeks.
Right.
So
I would, if it were me, I would rather not make that trade.
I don't love it
because Nakua only loses value when Kupp comes back.
Yeah, I also think Kelly looked like he's going to have value going forward. And I think Nakua will as well. So
especially because Austin Eckler's banged up, isn't he?
Yeah. I listened to his podcast yesterday. He said he was going to play, but who knows?
But that's what all the players say. I mean, remember we talked last week about would Travis Kelce play going into Thursday, and
he's busy with Taylor Swift. He's dating Taylor Swift now.
Is that right? Oh, he's going to be in a song soon.
Yep. Over under Casey. What's the over under on them staying together?
How long they stay together,
or whether
2 months, 3 months?
Oh, I see.
2 weeks.
I'll go 6 months.
Okay.
How about the over-under on number of songs that are going to be about Travis Kelce?
3.
I think there's only going to be 1, but I do think there's going to be 1. Okay, we've got a question from Chango's 101. Lockett or Addison full PPR?
Full PPR. That's what I like to hear.
Ooh.
I love Addison, guys. I love Addison.
I like
He had a
Addison.
touchdown the first week, and you know what? I know this guy
And
has never
tonight's gonna
won
be a
anything in his
shootout.
life. I know this guy has never won anything in his life, but you know what? I think Kirk Cousins has a little connection with this kid. So I like Addison. I like him
I'm
a
an
lot.
Addison guy in this one.
All right, let AS wants us to revisit. He has a follow-up question. If Nakua has 30 yards, his value plummets, and I won't be starting both Nakua and Kupp. Am I even going to play Kelly right now? So I understand your logic, and I actually agree with it. I would want you to find a different deal,
Well,
just because
and
I don't
think Nakua's value plummets with 30 yards against the 49ers. I just don't. The 49ers are too good of a defense.
I agree. It won't happen that fast.
And I think Najee is, as you guys know, we're not a huge fan of Najee keeping his job all year. Swift and Kamara's suspended. Swift is, hit or miss. Damian Harris is the backup in Buffalo. You could end up running out there with Kelly. And if Austin Eckler gets hurt, which, let's be honest, running backs get hurt all the time, Kelly walks into a pristine situation for a running back.
Yeah, I would want to hold on to Kelly. I understand maybe dealing Nakua, but I just think find a different deal. I think doesn't look like the one that I would want. Follow-up question or different question. Should I start Swift
Yes.
tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, I would start him tonight.
Swift will have a touchdown tonight. Put money on it.
He's a Philadelphia kid. It's kind of a homecoming for him.
Yep.
They might try to
He
make
hit
it a
Swift will have a
story.
TD. We won't have the first TD. I think the first TD will go to Justin Jefferson. I think that's my prediction.
It's always a safe bet. I mean, I do think that it is a safe bet for Swift to score, and with Gainwell out, he's going to have a lot of value. My only concern is he's going to get injured, which then, if he gets injured in the first quarter, you're not going to get a lot out of him. But you can't predict that. You got to go for it.
I mean, hopefully he won't.
Go for the best situation, and don't worry about that. And of course, don't wish injury on anybody. Okay, Metrius Lloyd says running back, wide receiver, and flex. C-Mac, Mixon. Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore, Rashee Rice, benches Akers, Roshan Johnson, Edwards, Dotson, Addison. Should I sub? Wow. Interesting questions.
I would play Addison tonight. Again, they're banged up, those DBs for the Eagles. They're going to give up a lot of passing yards tonight, and I think Addison will have a touchdown tonight and I think he's going to have a big game. Because they'll double team Justin Jefferson, and Addison, I think, will score some points.
So I like having Addison in the lineup. Here's the question, though. Who do you sub out?
DJ Moore?
That's what I was thinking, but I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't run out DJ Moore.
Okay, Rice then.
It's either DJ Moore
no,
or
I would take out Moore and Rice, to be honest.
I would take
Dotson, too. I like Dotson also.
I would play Dotson and Addison over Moore.
There you go. Okay, I agree with Dr.
Look,
Dan.
Roshan Johnson has a good role in
I like all the targets he got.
You have a good team, buddy. Like that's a good problem.
You just got to play the right time. At the right time, you got to play the right players. That's what I'm worried about. Rice should not be starting.
Okay, here's another deal. The guy said he would do Nakua and Damian Harris for Godwin and McKinnon.
No, he changed it on the next one, not McKinnon.
Oh, not McKinnon. Hold on.
For Godwin,
not McKinnon. Okay. Well, I don't know. What do we think then? It would be Nakua and Harris for Godwin. That seems worse to me than the other deal.
Harris means nothing.
Other deal
is a backup.
Yeah, Harris is backup, and Kelly is, has potential, but you'd be getting Kirk back.
I understand I understand your dilemma because look, nobody drafted Nakua in a 10 or 12 I shouldn't say nobody. Most of us didn't expect him to be this good, and after 1 week, you're able to get Chris Godwin for him, which is that's a pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, I could see going for it, but honestly, if you're going to do that, I would go back to the original deal probably and take Kirk. I don't know. What do you guys think, Ross?
I think Kirk had a good year last year. He didn't have a great game. Again, game one doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
I think Kirk overall will have a pretty good season.
I don't know. Actually, now that I think about it, the AS makes another. She says, I'm not giving up Kelly in that deal. So that is kind of nice. You cash in on Nakua, you get Godwin. I'm not a huge Godwin fan, but it is a clear upgrade in
I would
likely value.
I would probably I'm not. I mean, I like James Cook, so I'm not thinking Damian Harris is going to have.
Yeah. Now that said, I mean, Cook didn't put up big numbers in this first week, but is that a function of the defense he faced?
Well, he had 14, I think, or 13 rushes, right? And he had some yards receiving.
Right. The touches are there.
Yeah, but if there's somebody I'm willing to trade for right now, it would be somebody like James Cook.
Yeah. Metrius Lloyd, or it's Metrius, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, says, thank you. It's our pleasure. It's always fun to comment on these things, and hopefully we steer you right. Now, we're going to wrap up in a minute here, guys, but anything else you guys want to say to sum up week one? We didn't even talk about the fact that the Lions beat Kansas City, because I think sometimes the Thursday game feels like it was so long ago.
Yeah.
But they came through.
Casey predicted that too. Casey was not on the air, but he texted us and said, I'm predicting the Lions will win by a field goal.
Yeah,
by a field goal. And Casey Scheinfold is right again.
You know what? I'm going to ask one more question before we go. This is just one out of curiosity, just for myself. Dallas Goedert put up a goose egg, and Hunter Henry looks like he's getting targets. Like, could you see Hunter Henry being a good fill-in?
No, Goddard will have a good game this week. Let me just finish. Goddard's going to have a big game tonight.
Don't go away from Goddard.
Just because Goddard, the Vikings give up a lot of yards to tight ends. And Hawkinson for the Vikings is going to have a big game also. If you play daily fantasy, start both those tight ends. They're both going to have a big game.
It doesn't matter if Minnesota gives up points to tight ends if Jalen Hurts doesn't like throwing to the tight end. Like, if he doesn't look for the tight end, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Mac Jones looks for Hunter Henry. Like, that's what matters.
Yeah, I mean, but Jalen Hurts has looked for Goddard plenty.
Goddard's going to get the ball tonight. Casey,
I think Goddard is going to have a big game tonight.
He's going to have a touchdown also. Swift's having a touchdown.
Your call, Case.
I'm going to say that Hunter Henry outproduces Goddard this weekend.
Interesting. Okay, let's finish up on these trades that we're debating. We want to help out. He says, so it's either Nakua and Kelly for Godwin and Kirk, or Nakua and Harris for Godwin. If you had to take one of those deals, guys, which one would you take?
I would take Nakua and Harris for Godwin.
I think I'd go that way too, actually.
I don't want Christian Kirk is still the number 2 in Jacksonville. You're giving up 2 number 2 receivers for a number 2 receiver.
You know, and I know it may sound silly to some people, but a handcuff like Kelly, it's just what you said. It's such a great situation. All right, we'll finish on this last question. Metrius Lloyd says, last year Eagles held Minnesota to 7 points, and they struggled against the Bucs defense.
Yeah, and last year Jalen Hurts ran for 2 touchdowns in that game. So he's the running back. I agree with you. I mean, yeah, I'm
starting to think Jalen Hurts is pretty good.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is playing at home. It's a home opener. It's going to be 75 degrees in Philadelphia. It's perfect.
If you want a tight end, TJ Hawkinson's the tight end to target this weekend.
Isn't he the highest paid tight end now too?
He is, but the Eagles, they're down to Kobe Dean, their stud rookie linebacker, and they never guard the tight end.
And Hawkinson had 7 receptions last week?
You know, so I think Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball 50 times, you know, and Hawkinson's going to see at least 10 of them. Has
Kirk Cousins ever won a big game in his life, like a playoff game or any game that mattered?
That's the rap on him. He gets into the playoffs, but then he doesn't win.
Any game that's a big game, he loses. It's just like he's a nice guy. I like him, but
he's faced some tough games. I said we're going to finish up, but we'll squeeze in one more. Cameron B says, should I offer Drake London and B. Rob Jr. for T. Higgins? My league mates only running backs are Eckler, Miles Sanders, and Isaiah Spiller.
Well, it depends who your other running backs are. To me, it's more important, obviously, because you're giving up Brian Robinson, who looked pretty good last week. I agree with you that Drake London, Desmond Ridder had I think the fewest yards per attempt. It was like 3.1 yards per attempt of any quarterback. And at the end of the first quarter last week, he had 3 passes completed for negative 11 yards.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do. So if you can get T. Higgins, you're buying low on him, and you're only giving up.
Well, here's the current squad. Burrow, Bijan, Javonte Williams, Devontae Smith, Drake London, Goddard, Zay Flowers, benches, B-Rob. I like doing it in this setup because you already have a strong starting lineup, but now you're upgrading. Warren. And I also love stacks. So you got Burrow and Higgins coming together. I would do it.
I would.
There is risk to it, but I would do it.
Because I like Devonta Smith, but Drake London is not nearly as good of a number 2 wide receiver as T. Higgins. So you're upgrading there and giving up Brian Robinson. You have
You're
Javonte
giving
and
up
Bijan.
depth. You know,
And you
you're
have
giving
Zach
up depth.
Charbonnet and
yeah.
Jalen Warren. So,
and remember,
yeah.
T. Higgins had 0 yards last week, so owners are really down on him right now.
So if you were
this is the
listening
week
earlier,
you go for it.
If you were listening earlier, Cameron, wait till Tyler Algier has a bad week, maybe fumbles a couple times or lays an egg, and then trade whatever depth you can to try to get him to go along with Bijan.
But I do like when you have good depth, I like upgrading your starting lineup everywhere you can. So I think that's a great idea. All right, guys, we got to wrap up for today. Ross, Casey, it's been a pleasure. We'll be here same time next week. That's Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. We're here every week, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Put your comments below and keep the questions coming. Thanks so much, guys.